to the sky. Never let adventures pass you by. Be free and follow your crazy dreams. We're living our vision in the RV. Come ride with us and you'll be free.
For those of you new to our channel, we are Brian and Michelle.
We are.
We've been traveling 5 years now, full time in an RV.
A little over 5 years.
A little over 5 years.
We count every day.
The last 2 years, we've actually been ambassadors for Grech RV and testing out their Class B luxury vans.
The Strada-ion. Yeah, almost 2 years now, coming up real shortly. We wanted to make this video for a couple reasons. We've had a lot of people asking some questions, a lot of things that we've already talked about, but they're in previous videos like here and there. As many of you know that watches our channel a lot, we put little nuggets in here and there, and not a lot of videos. It's just all about one subject. So we've had this new 2024 Strada-ion, which is on the 2023 Mercedes chassis, made by Grech RV out of Riverside, California. Back in, I believe it was August, they gave us this new model and they wanted us to test it out. So it didn't have a few things on it that they knew they were going to be putting on later for this same model year, but they wanted us to go ahead and start testing it because that way we can let them know if there's any issues with anything. That's kind of what we do. With us traveling full time, it puts these through, you know, the best test. So we're kind of doing the testing for them. So we knew we were going to get the updated model of the 2024 Strada-ion, and that's what we're in today. We've got a different color this time. We've had white every time. This time we have what they call the blue-gray. We weren't so sure about it at first, but it's growing on us.
Yeah.
We kind of like it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to cover a few things about the Mercedes Sprinter, some little hidden items that's not obvious, and some things that may be helpful to people that didn't know they're there, and just some helpful things. So we could go on for hours talking about the Mercedes Sprinter. So just let it be known, we're just going to cover a few things that we know about, and then we're also going to share some of the things that people have been asking about, that a lot of them that we've already shared, but we're going to make this one video so that we kind of touch on the most important things that people have been asking about. Now we are down at Pompano Beach in Florida. Beautiful little area. This is the first time that we've came to this area right here. It's really pretty. So we're gonna have lots of distractions. So sorry in advance. This is that blue-gray. There's Santa in the windshield. He does not come with it. One of the things that people ask us about is the parking. And we've said this before, we usually don't have any issues, especially if we have a regular parking spot. We back in, and that way the back end hangs over, as long as there's no sidewalk right behind us. Now where we're at today, we're in an angled parking spot, and we really can't back in because it's a one-way street. And these angled spots, they give you a little more room, and I'll show you how we fit in here. So as you can see, we're right at the edge. We can fit in an angled spot just like this. Now there's a couple things I want to show you under the hood first, and one of them is if you have a Strada-ion or just the Mercedes chassis, you might want to get struts for the hood. There's different prices all over. We did put some in our Amazon store that can give you kind of an idea of what to look for. If you're familiar with the Sprinter, if you open the hood, it's got the little lever there that you hold the hood up with. If you have the struts on there, which are easy to install and very cheap, then you can just open your hood, push it up, and you're done. That way, every time you're putting def in, you don't have to mess with that. And while we're under here, I might as well point out, if you're ever in the need where you need to jump start your Sprinter, Mercedes made an easy place here to put your positive and your negative terminals for jump starting. There's where you can clamp on to your positive, and then your negative terminal is here. Now this engine is the new 4-cylinder turbo, a little more horsepower than the 6-cylinder did, has a 9-speed transmission, and gets a lot better fuel economy. And if you're wondering what kind of fuel economy this gets, we've been averaging at 60 miles an hour, you're getting about 23 miles per gallon. And at 70 miles per hour, we're averaging about 20 miles per gallon. So you can kind of get the gist of the fluctuation there depending on what speed you're driving. And that is up and down through hills, flats. It's over a long stretch. That's what this has been averaging. All right, so now something I'm going to talk about is the battery. The chassis battery on the Mercedes Sprinter is kind of hidden. Under the driver's floor mat, there you'll see that emblem for the battery there. You have to take these screws out right here to get to this battery. You ever need to disconnect the battery, underneath the driver's side here, this little plate right here. If you take this plate off, there is a battery disconnect that you just pull off. See that gray plastic? There's a button on top that you push down on that and it releases it, and then you just pull that off of that terminal. Just so you know, that's where it's at, and that cover comes off really simple. And then coming over to the passenger side, if you ever need to change the cabin filter, your air filter, if your vents start blowing out some unpleasant air.
What, do you smell something?
Do I smell something? What am I, hard of smelling? Of course I smell something.
What is it?
Now, we have a video when we were up in Door County, Wisconsin, earlier this past summer, the summer of 2023. After you remove your floor mat, once you loosen those two screws there, you take that cover off of the floor, and then you're going to see underneath there's going to be a tool set. Well, you got to take that out, because in order to get that air filter out that is up above, you have to take that tool set out, or the air filter won't come down far enough to get it out. So once you get that out, then you look up above underneath the dash, and up above there you'll see a little cover, and you've got a few tabs there that you have to squeeze to pop open. Once you pop that cover off and bring that down, then you'll see your air filter, and you just pull that down out of there, and then run up to an auto parts store. We got ours at an auto parts store locally while we were in Des Moines. Now, when you pull that old filter out, make sure you recognize the way that it goes in. On ours, it has two little holes that are facing up. So when you get the new filter, just make sure you recognize how you're taking that out. That way you know how the new one goes back in. And on the cover, make sure that you get it snapped in, and each one of them will snap. Because if you have one that's not snapped in tight, then you're going to get an air whistle sound. Take it from me, it happened. When I'm cleaning the tanks out, emptying the tanks, this is just what I do because I think it helps keep the black tank valve cleaner. Because as you know, the black tank valve is going to have more debris going through it than the gray tank, right? So I open up the black tank valve here, I turn on the pump, and you can tell when it's getting about empty. You're not supposed to let those pumps run very long at all, not at all when they're empty. So as it's getting empty, I don't shut the pump off. I keep it on and quickly open the gray valve. So the black valve is still open, and I think the way this is set up, as I can see it anyway, that gray water is going to swish through there and probably clean out that black valve also. And as long as you run that pump until it's completely empty, it's going to drain both of the tanks. But always start with the black first, so that you're not washing everything out, obviously, with the black water. You want to wash it out with that soapy gray water. And that's just what I do. So far, it's worked good on keeping the valves clean. Also, there is an emergency valve underneath there. If your valves get stuck and the electronic switches aren't working, it's kind of an emergency dump valve. You can take that cap off and put a regular hose on there. Of course, you'd have to go buy a regular hose or have one stored away, but that's something that you're not going to hopefully ever need. So we don't carry one of those with us. If that were to ever happen, we'd just go to Walmart, pick one up, hopefully not have to use somebody else's. I'd rather just buy one. So in the back here, this is something that people have asked. This is more related to the Strada-ion because of the way it's set up. These two containers have worked really good for us. This is where we keep all of our hoses and everything, and this one here is where we keep all of our cleaners and stuff like that, and like electrical things like your adapters for your 50 amp and 20 amp. But these work really well. They're made by Sterlite, and it is a 20 quart, and it's an 18 and 5/8 inches long by 14 inches wide and 7 3/8 inches high, if you're wondering what size. I know we've had people ask asked us before what size containers we use. Those work really well because when this screen comes down, the screen still clears it, and the height of putting 2 on also allows this bed to come down. You got to be careful how much height you put in here, or this bed will squish it. So those work out really well. This is just where we keep our gloves. I set the power cord here. This is just a induction little cooktop that we used to have with the Class A. We decided to take it with us. That way we could grill outside with that and just use electricity. Got plenty of room to put a little grill here if you wanted to use a regular grill. And my tools, some sockets, and a couple blocks here. We have a couple more up front. So now we're going to talk about the Strada-ion, the 2024, and the new improvements that they've made. We had a silver Strada-ion in the beginning. I think earlier I said all white, but we had 1 silver and 2 white, and now this blue-gray, right, Michelle?
Correct.
In the first model, it had a little pop-up table on the end of the counter here by the sink, and it was small, but it was very, very useful. We liked having that there. I couldn't work from it other than setting a laptop on it and stand up, which I can do on the regular counter, do that. In the 2023 model, they took that table away and they put a mount there for a lagoon table. Their thinking was, you know, you can use it, swing it outside and use it outside or inside, either way, which is a good idea. But the problem with that is then you're either taking your other table, moving it back and forth all the time. And for us, we like leaving that table there, just swiveling it around when we sleep, out of the way, and just move it as we need it. That way we're not taking it up and down all the time, and it stays in one position for Michelle when she's working back there, so she doesn't have to keep trying to adjust it every day that she goes back to work when we keep taking it down. So for us, it's nice to leave it there, and you may say, well, get another table. We did try that. Grech gave us another table at the time, and it gets in the way. We don't want to leave it here right in front of the doorway. So there's a place inside the closet, and if you put it in there, it really pushes your clothes out, lose room basically for your clothes. So we really thought it would be best just to have that table back. And so they did, but they made it better. You just push in to unlatch it, and it goes up, and then it has 2 buttons underneath that you push in, and then to latch it, you just push in. It latches. Out. In. Get the picture? And then on the previous model, they had the fire extinguisher behind the seat. It just was mounted right here. It was easy to get to, but it kind of took up a little space there. Maybe you want to put water there to clear your walkway through here. Now in the same area where this table's at, right below it, there's a recessed area for the fire extinguisher. And they had to move the outlet down a little lower, so that's the only negative, as it's a little further down. And then the CO detector is here instead of back behind underneath the couch, which was kind of a bad spot for it. So they made a few good improvements there, and you would think that's going to take up space inside the cabinetry, but it didn't. All of our containers fit inside there. Now you were going to say not really. It did a little bit, or?
Well, I mean, because there's just a little bit, but we didn't have to buy any different containers or anything. They still fit fine.
Reason why I'm asking her is because she put them in there when we were switching everything out, and everything fit. So that's all I knew. But yeah, so that worked out really well. Another update that Grech made was turn on the accent lights here. Already had these accent lights underneath the counter and all the way around back there. But now they added them
underneath here.
Show everybody, Vanna.
They're all under here, all the way across. So it just adds a little bit more mood lighting.
Yeah, mood.
Yeah.
Did you say mood? What kind of mood? One other thing that Grech RV added, and we just realized it like 2 or 3 days ago. As many of you know, Michelle works in the back and I work in the front. We're sitting quite a bit. I have a steering wheel desk that works out a lot better that I recently got within the last few months. I usually have my headphones on, so I don't need any external noise because I'm always listening to what I'm working on. Michelle sometimes needs some noise because unless she's on a Zoom call, then she wants it off. I have control up here, of course, for like our XM radio, maybe turn the Today's Show on for her. The front and the rear speakers are on at the same time, and there's no fader to fade from front to back. You can go left to right, but you can't go front to back. I had asked a while back if you could have the option, if there was a way that they can make an option to do that. So they put a switch in the back. Michelle can turn the speakers off back there herself, but they're still going to be on for me up here, which isn't a big deal because I have my headphones on anyway. But it would be nice to have just the rear speakers on, because sometimes the sound from these front speakers is kind of distracting even though I have my headphones on, and I need to hear every single little detail when I'm editing, because sometimes some noises are not heard until later after the editing's done, and that's kind of frustrating. But at least they were able to put a switch in to disable her speakers if I wanted them on up here for some reason, and she can disable them in the back. A couple things I wanted to show you up here, at least a couple, maybe just one, I don't know. On the Mercedes, it has the settings up here. It has a bunch of different options that you can choose. A lot of people have asked us how much DEF this thing uses, the diesel exhaust fluid, how often we have to fill it up. And I'm going to say around, somewhere around that 4,000 mark. It depends on, as you know, if you've ever pulled anything with a diesel truck, like we did with the Airstream. When you're pulling, it uses a lot more diesel exhaust fluid and then when you're not pulling. This uses, even though we got everything in here, it uses about the same amount as the truck did without pulling our Airstream, which was really good. We've got 1,870 miles on here so far, and I'll check, see how much, how full the DEF is here in a second. But what I like to do is keep the DEF gauge there, because when it gets down to about half full, I go ahead and buy one at Walmart and just fill it up just to keep it topped off. If you hit your home screen right here, and as you can see on the screen down there, you got your trip. That's usually where we have it at. And if you scroll over, this is the scroll button, scroll over to settings, push the button, and then go down to display, press the button, and then right here it says for reserve. You scroll down and you swipe over to the left and it says permanent. And you see that gauge that's at the bottom now. That's your DEF gauge. So I'll go ahead and hit the home button here, go back to the main screen, and go back to trip and hit that. And now you got your speedometer and everything, what we normally have on there, but the DEF gauge is also down at the bottom now. Sorry, that wasn't very focused. So now that DEF gauge is going to stay there. Now I'm going to have to start this in order to see how much diesel exhaust fluid. And you can see it's just a little over a half a tank. 1,870 miles, it's used that much diesel exhaust fluid. So that equates to about 4,000 miles for the entire amount that holds. When it's halfway, that will take one container of diesel exhaust fluid. So the whole thing, the whole tank of for the diesel exhaust fluid uses two of your can't remember how many gallons those are, but 2 containers. This has a lot of features that we really like. It has your lane assist. If you're coming up too close on a vehicle in front of you, if you start to get really close and you're not paying attention, alarm will go off, but it will also brake and try to save you from having an accident. Lane assist, it has that lane assist, so if you start to cross that yellow line or your line on your right as well, whether it's a 4-lane, 2-lane, it doesn't matter. It's going to vibrate and it's going to brake and it's going to pull you over back into your lane. So if you're on the left side and you're hitting that line, it's going to pull you to the right and brake. And the same with the right side, it's going to pull you back to the left. If you have your turning signal on, it's not going to do that. But if you ever want to turn that off, one way, and I haven't tried this yet, I don't know if it needs to be started or not. We'll start it up. Yes, you do. You have to start it. See, we all learn something every day. So there, see that blue line went away. Active lane keeping assist is off. Hit it again and it's on. There's another way to get to that also. That's if you scroll into your settings. So if you're on your radio, whatever, if you're already on your radio, listening to Gwen Stefani. You can hit your home button and scroll over to your settings to go there. But if you're already in the radio, all you have to do is hit this button right here and it'll just go straight there. So there's all kinds of different things you can adjust on this. Your different lighting, your exterior and interior lighting. Just a couple things there that I just wanted to show you. The diesel exhaust fluid, that could be handy just to keep your eye on. It does, once you get past that halfway mark, it'll sound off an alarm. So it will tell you once you get past that halfway mark, it'll let you know that your diesel exhaust fluid, it makes you think that you're getting low, but you can go obviously another 2,000 miles even after that alarm goes off. Just don't let it get low, too low. You don't want to run out of it. But like I said, I always try to fill it up once we get to that halfway mark. Otherwise, if it goes past that halfway mark, then you're going to put one container in. That's all you can put in. You can't put two in, or you're going to have part of another container. I don't like to leave that stuff sitting in this in the van, because the fluid, if it ever leaked or anything, it's a very corrosive fluid. So when we buy it, I go ahead and I put it in right away and get rid of the container. And something else that this has that I don't know, it's kind of a catch-22 for both of us. It's kind of scares you when you're not expecting it, because you usually aren't expecting it, is the side wind assist. Like when we're on Interstate 10 coming from California, and there's some, you usually get some high winds in that area. Yeah, many of you know this place that we're talking about, or just high winds through the Midwest or wherever. If the winds get too strong and a gust of wind, it'll break immediately, and you can feel the front end go down. It's kind of a nice feature to have for safety reasons, especially when you got a vehicle that's so tall like this. But I don't know, Michelle has a love-hate relationship.
Just like, what was that?
That isn't exactly what you say.
Yeah.
The lights on the corner, when you turn your steering wheel, if you turn your steering wheel to the right, a light on this right corner will light up, and it lights up this right side as you're turning. Same thing with the left, turn it to the left, and that light on the corner on the left side lights up the left side. It comes in handy for places like a state park. As many of you know, state park campgrounds are dark. They don't have much lighting at all, most of them that we've been to anyway. There's a few that do, or other campgrounds that don't have much lighting. There's a lot of campgrounds in general that don't. But that comes in handy. Sometimes you're really tight areas, or the area might seem a little sketchy of what you're driving on, potholes or whatever. So it does help when you're coming in at night. When we had our bigger RVs, our Class A motorhome and the Airstream, we didn't like to come into a campground at night. There was a couple times that we had to. But now with this, with the van, we don't care when we come in, because it's so easy, and we don't have things to worry about backing in. It's a lot easier. That's another big plus for us. It opens up the window of, we don't have to try to rush to get to a campground. If we have things to do, we don't have to try to rush to get there before dark.
A lot of people have asked what we use for storage containers in our cabinets. And we found these at Target. They're very handy. They're these collapsible type little storage containers. I think this is the 11-inch. And you can see we use them a lot. And then we also bought these little shelving units. You can also find those at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. Maybe Target even has them.
And if you want to see more of where we store everything, we had a video that we put out back when we had the 2022 model of the Strada-ion, and we were switching it out for the 2023 Strada-ion. We were at Grech RV in Riverside, California, and that kind of shows you where we put everything. But that's going to be our video for today, and we hope at least one thing was helpful to somebody. And hopefully we'll share some more things later. Like we said at the beginning of the video, we can't touch on every little thing. That thing's got a lot of different options on it. What do you think?
I think it's time to call it a day. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click that little bell, and hit that thumbs up. See you next week.